Hello, everyone. I am Sean, and once again, welcome to my Horror Corner. As always, thank you so much for watching the video today. Uh, I really do appreciate that. And for those of you who have subscribed to the channel, thank you. An extra special thank you to you. The numbers continue to climb a little bit. We're a little over 80 now. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you all so very, very much. Your encouragement, your support, it means so much to me. So thank you. Change the schedule a little bit from what I had originally thought was coming. Still going to be covering those movies, but just a small change up here a little bit is today we are going to be talking about Weapons from 2025. I went to the movies earlier today and watched that one, and so I wanted to do an episode on it. I really got to get better about doing this newer stuff, so wanted to do an episode on Weapons, and then we'll pick up later this week with Renfield, because that's what I originally thought this episode was going to be. So, yeah, watched Weapons today, came home, watched Renfield, and now working on some recording. So, yeah, this will be interesting. If you haven't seen this one yet, it's been out for a little over a week. So I will have some spoilers in this. So if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to hold on before you watch this. Go watch another video of mine or something, or go to the movie and see Weapons, and then come back and watch this video. But yeah, just don't want to spoil anything for anybody that hasn't seen the film yet. All right, so that being said, let's get ready to talk about Weapons. I'm going to put my glasses on uh, so that I can see the few notes that I took here real quick. Um, Basic overview for the film. When all but one child from the same class mysteriously vanish on the same night at exactly the same time, a community is left questioning who or what is behind their disappearance. Yeah, that's Weapons. The film was released August 8th of 2025. So yeah, just a little over a week ago. Directed by Zach Cregger, written by Zach Cregger, produced by Zach Cregger, Roy Lee, Miri Yoon, J.D. Lifshitz, and Raphael Margules. I believe is how you say that. I don't know. We've talked about this before. I'm terrible with names. Uh, Cinematography done by, again, Larkin Seipel. Music by Ryan Holiday, Hayes Holiday, and Zach Cregger. Distributed by Warner Brothers. A budget of $38 million, box office of 120.4 million already. So the film doing exceptionally well at the theaters in its opening week. Cast for the film, we'll come back to that. Scores, Rotten Tomatoes scores 94% from critics, 86% from the audience, and an IMDb score of 7.9 out of 10. Excuse me, I'm going to get a drink. I hate doing that while I'm recording, but yeah, I still, as some of you heard me talk about in my last episode, insomnia just kicks my ass now. I don't feel like I sleep much, and so then I start getting tired late in the day. Every time I sit down to record, I feel like I start yawning. So I apologize in advance. Trying to get some caffeine in me here and get livened up a little bit. All right, so cast for this film. Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, Alden Ehrenreich, Austin Abrams, Carrie Christopher, Benedict Wong, and Amy Madigan. Let me start there. We're going to talk about the cast here for a few minutes and these characters. Um, I think that this cast does an incredible job. Everybody in this movie performs incredibly well. Um, Very impressed. And some of the people in this film, I have found myself questioning in the past whether I thought they were that great, I guess, basically as actors. I mean, I know I have no right to say that, but they just haven't been some of my favorites. But I think everybody does an exceptional job here in this movie. The performances are very good. The characters, I think those that you're not meant to like, you don't. I think that yeah, there's one particular villain, and like I said, we'll get into the spoilers here in a little bit. But um, I think the characters that you're supposed to like, you do for the most part. They all have some things about them that aren't great, but they're all going through something here that would probably explain some of that a little bit. So the characters are fine, but again, I think the cast just does an outstanding job. Um, and before I get into actually kind of walking through the plot on this a little bit, I don't have a lot of behind the scenes stuff for this film, it being so new. Other than one thing I did read today that I was not aware of. You may already know this, but apparently, Pedro Pascal was originally intended to play the character that Josh Brolin plays, but had to back out due to Fantastic Four. Yeah, just totally drew a blank. Had to back out due to working on Fantastic Four, and so that's when. Um, Josh Brolin was offered this position. So I like this story. Um, this is an interesting film, and I want to try to save my overall opinion for the end. Again, scores are very high. This movie's making a ton of money. I've heard from a few other people this movie getting a lot of praise. I've heard one person in particular say that this is their favorite film of the year so far. They feel like this is the best movie of the year as far as horror movies go. Um, this movie gives me a little bit of a vibe of Longlegs, which is another movie that people were incredibly huge fans of that I myself just thought was mediocre. Um, not saying I think this movie is mediocre, but yeah, that's. I did get a little bit of that vibe, especially later into the film. But yeah, let's just go ahead and begin to walk through this a little bit. I do like this story, and I like the way this plays out, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. So, the opening of the film, you get a child narrator basically telling you the story of 17 children who all were part of Justine Gandy's third grade class at the school in Pennsylvania, went missing one night. They seemed to get up out of bed, and I didn't make a note of. I think it was like 2:17 in the morning. They get up out of bed, leave their house, and go running off into the dark, never to be seen again. And they all seem to run with their, their arms out like an airplane or something, But some of this footage is caught on cameras, security cameras, and things like that that people have on their house, so they see these kids running off, but they all again go into the dark and no one knows where. Only one child from this class, whose name is Alex, did not do this. Police question him as to why. But again, we get this narration beginning, and we do find out that again, like I said, the police question him. They question the teacher. There was a lot of research going on, investigating, trying to figure out what happened, what was going on with these kids. No one seems to know anything, including the young boy. And I believe they say the school gets shut down for like a month, and then classes start back up, and Alex is just placed in another third grade class. Not a bad opening. I think it does a good job of setting the stage for what's to come. Um, Nothing about it that I just thought was extraordinary, but I did enjoy the opening. I like the way it set things up because, to be honest with you, other than other than knowing that this movie is about some children that disappear, I really didn't know much else of what was going on. I think this movie does, a lot of times in trailers, too much is given away. And I think this film did a good job of not doing that. I don't think too much is given away in the trailer for this movie because I really didn't know what to expect or what was happening other than missing children. And so I think this opening does a pretty good job of setting that up and setting the stage to get us ready for that. With a brief introduction to a few characters. But from there, one of the things this movie does that I think helps it because this film is a slow burn. And if you know me, you've heard me talk about it. I'm generally not a fan of slow burns. That's just not something that I really like. There's a few exceptions, but for the most part, I'm not a big fan of slow burns. Uh, but one thing this film does that is a little bit different, and that I think helps with that process because the film, I don't think I wrote down the runtime, and I normally do, but the film is over 2 hours long. For example, like the movie where I went, it started at 12:30, and when I walked out, I believe it was a little after 3. I looked at my phone to see what time it was, and it was a little after 3. Of course, I mean, I know you've got, your previews and all the advertisements, commercials, things like that that go on before the film starts. But again, over 2 hours. And, honestly, that brings me to something else real quick. I don't remember, and I'm going to show my age here a little bit, but I don't remember, when I went to the movies as a kid, and even as a younger adult, a teenager in my 20s, there were always a few advertisements, but a lot of it was, advertisements for the concession out in the lobby and previews, trailers for other films. I don't remember it, and maybe I just forgot about it, but I really don't remember seeing commercial after commercial after commercial after commercial after commercial for so many different products. I kind of hate it, to be completely honest with you. Again, that's just me being an old man, but I don't remember that being the way it was before. I'm one of those guys. I want to see trailers. I want to see the previews. The people that I went and saw this movie by myself, but sometimes some of the people that go with me to see movies, I always give them shit because I'm like, we've got to be there by a certain time because I want to have time to go get my drink. I want to have time to get my popcorn, and then I want to get set down and not miss any of the previews. And man, I feel like you can come in if the movie says it's going to start at 12:30. I feel like you could almost get there 15 to 20 minutes later, and you're still not going to miss any previews because it's just so many fucking commercials. But anyway, yeah, that's just a little rant there. I don't know. Do you guys feel the same way? Do you think there's so many more commercials before these movies start? I know that is pointless compared to what we're talking about, but it just bugs me every single time. Back to the movie. So I was saying there's one thing that this film does that helps it along as a slow burn because there are some pacing issues. For the most part, it's pretty good, but there are a few issues I feel like where the film drags just a little bit, um, where you definitely feel that runtime. Um, but I don't think it's as bad as some other movies that I've had major issues with that because this film gives you the perspective of I think it's like 5 different people that we end up getting perspectives of on this film, and I actually really like that. I've seen a few other movies do that, nothing's coming, to mind right off the top of my head, but I've seen that done before. I like it when that's done. I think it gives you great character introduction, and I just really like seeing the story from different people's point of view, so that's a huge plus for this film. I really like the way it did that because I feel like had it not done that, there would have been much more issues with the pacing, much more issues with it dragging from time to time. But that giving you this from different characters, and so sometimes you're seeing the same thing happen, but from someone else's perspective. I think that helps this along a little bit, and I think it helps with the pacing and the runtime of this film. Initially, we get Justine's take. What she's seeing through all of this. Who is the teacher? We find out that a lot of the parents are blaming her, thinking that she had something to do with that. She gets harassed quite a bit. People call her a witch. They put witch on the side of her car. Um, there's these meetings, and the parents are harassing and wanting her to speak and say what actually happened. But then when she's trying to, actually talk, she's constantly getting interrupted and. We find out that she ends up getting placed on leave. The school doesn't think that it's a good idea to have her back right now. It's too fresh on everyone's mind, and there's too much going on, and so the principal puts her on a leave. We see that through all of this, through what she's dealing with her students disappearing, being placed on this leave when she really just wants to be back at school and wants to be teaching again. She kind of becomes very dependent on alcohol. She also apparently an ex-boyfriend of hers, who's now a police officer named Paul. She kind of leans back into him, and spending time with him, or it's a very odd relationship that they have because apparently Paul has been dating someone else at one point. But so she's using alcohol, she's using Paul, trying to help her get through this, but she also wants answers, and so we do see that she continuously requests to speak with Alex. There's a couple times where she's following him, and at one point she's sitting outside his house when it's dark, and we see that she falls asleep in the car. Some woman emerges from the house. We almost think that she's going to attack Justine, but instead she manages to get in the back of the car without waking Justine up and cutting off a piece of her hair. Um, we get all of this. We get this from, again, Justine's viewpoint of everything that's happening. And then we switch and we get Josh Brolin's character, Archer, who his child is missing. His son is missing, and one of the kids has disappeared. And we see how frustrated he is and the things that he's dealing with. Very frustrated with the police, and basically decides to that he doesn't feel like the police is doing a good job, so he's going to start looking into things on his own. He's also questioned Justine and not sure about her, so we kind of get his perspective as we're going through this and different things that he's seeing. There is Paul, who I mentioned earlier, the police officer, who not a detective, not really investigating what's going on, but we're more seeing his perspective initially just from his relationship with Justine. But then we also see, and it's kind of a little side story, but I found it interesting, where Paul sees a guy that's, I forgot his name now, but looks like he's breaking into a place. Um, Paul starts chasing him, ends up catching him, and there's a scene there where he's tackled the guy, and now he's got the guy in handcuffs, and he's about to search him, and he keeps saying, do you have anything sharp in your pockets that's going to cut me or poke me when I, uh, search you? And the guy says no, and then he puts his hand in, and he ends up getting poked by a needle, and he kind of snaps. He punches the guy, a kid really. It's a younger person, knocks him out, and then he ends up, having to go back to the station. He wakes the guy up and basically tells him, "Look, you did me wrong. I did you wrong. Let's forget about this. As long as you don't ever show your face again, I won't bother you. But if I see you again, we're gonna have issues." And so, then he ends up admitting to his boss what he did. His boss tells him as long as there's not a complaint, that they'll act like this didn't happen. Not good, but it's the way it plays out. But then a little bit later, um, Paul does see this kid again and takes off after him. Now, from there, we also get, and again, I don't have his name down, so maybe there's actually six people. We also get the perspective from this young, and I say kid, I mean he's probably teenager, early 20s. This it turned out to be a drug addict. We start to get kind of his perspective. We find out that he's, again, like I said, a drug addict. He's constantly trying to get money. We see him stealing stuff out of cars and trying to come up with different things. And we see then him show back up and Paul start chasing him, and we see him run off into the woods where he sees a woman with some very odd looking makeup, and then he takes off to a tent that he's been staying in. He hears someone outside the tent, so he thinks that it's this woman. He grabs these needles, and then the person unzips the tent, and he stabs him with the needles, and it turns out to be Paul, the police officer, who then really freaks out on him. But this kid, before that, kind of got ahead of myself. Before that, this kid had gone into Alex's house, just trying to find things that he could steal. And while in Alex's house, he ends up seeing Alex's parents in a very catatonic state. Um, he also hears other noises going on. And then at one point, it appears that Alex's parents are coming after him, and so he takes off running. And he before he ends up going into the basement of this house, and we discover that all these missing children are in the basement of Alex, the one kid who didn't disappear, of his home. And so that's how then when Paul has got him again, he basically tells him, "Look, I know where all these missing kids are. I can take you there." And so Paul, thinking, "Okay, this is a chance for me to solve this case," does so. He takes him back to this house, and still has him locked up in the back seat. And then he goes inside. Quite a bit of time passes. We see it become night, like the kid's sitting in the back of the police car, still wondering what's going on. Suddenly, we see the door to the house open. Paul comes out, very disoriented, very different, and ends up dragging the kid into the house. So we know that whatever is in Alex's house, it basically is, got his parents, and it also has this police officer now. We also get Marcus, who is the principal. We get kind of his perspective of what's going on, and him having to, put Justine on leave. There's also, I feel like, some pretty cool scenes where Marcus is having to. Justine does convince Marcus to do a wellness check on Alex. She tells him some of the things that's going on and what she's concerned about. That she's seen the house, and there's newspapers all over the windows, and so he ends up trying to call the house to get the parents to come down so that he could do a wellness check. And instead, Aunt Gladys comes. Aunt Gladys becomes a very interesting character. I think Aunt Gladys could be a very cool horror character. I mean, she is a very cool horror character, very creepy. Maybe that's where the Longlegs vibe comes in for me, comparing Aunt Gladys to Longlegs. But I still feel like there's a little bit of similarity in the two movies. Um, but in doing this wellness check, she tries to explain to him that Alex's parents are sick and that she's having to do things. He tells her he has to speak with the parents, or else he's going to have to get Child Protective Services involved. And we do see later, then she shows up at Marcus's house, and while there, she ends up performing a spell where she causes Marcus to basically lose his mind and go out of control and attack his partner and kill his partner, and then convinces him to take off after Justine. And then we get a very cool scene where some of these stories start to come together, as we see Justine and Archer speaking at a gas station. We see Marcus, run up and attack Justine. Archer's trying to fight him and just can't seem to, get rid of him. However, Archer recognizes the way Marcus was running as being the same way some of these kids were running, and so he's starting to piece some things together. But we get a pretty good, some pretty good scenes there where Marcus is attacking and keeps running after them, and he and Archer battle for a second, and then he's chasing Justine again before he ends up getting hit by a car and getting killed. But I feel like this movie, throughout all of these different stories, there have been different times where we get some very good jump scares, and then just some good moments of a little bit of gore here and there. A lot of it coming from this Marcus thing where he attacks his partner. But then we finally get to Alex's perspective and what he's seeing on everything, and we find out that Aunt Gladys is basically a witch who had come to stay with Alex and his parents because of poor health. But once she got there, basically took Alex's parents under spell, put him under a spell, and is kind of threatening Alex. She's using him to help take care of them because apparently having these people under her spell and under her control is restoring her health, but she realizes that she needs more, and so she has set this up. She needs something that belongs to all of the children in his class, and so Alex takes something from each one of the children and gives it to her, and then she's able to cast a spell that causes these children to leave their homes in the middle of the night and come there, and she puts them in the basement and. She makes Alex go to school, but threatens him to not say anything. Um, she uses Alex to help feed the parents and feed the children and kind of help her along. And, we find out that that is what this witchcraft is what has caused these kids to take off and everything that's going on. And then we finally get to, like the final act of the movie where, uh, Justine and Archer end up showing back up at Alex's house. They see the police officer Paul outside, which Justine knows him and wonders what's going on. They enter the house, and then well, Paul, the police officer, he's now under Aunt Gladys's spell. He ends up attacking Justine. The young kid who was a drug addict ends up attacking Archer, and they're at one point, Archer mentions how they almost seem like they're weaponized because it just doesn't seem like you could do anything to stop them. They just keep coming no matter what you do. After several good battles, we also see uh, while this is going on, Alex is now also disobeyed Aunt Gladys, and so she now has his parents chasing him. So there's a lot going on, a lot of action going on, a lot of tension going on, some very good stuff going on here in this film, and really keeping you kind of now on the edge of your seat, wondering what's going to happen to each person in their different battles. Eventually, of course, they do get the upper hand, and Alex is able to get a hold of Aunt Gladys's stuff that she uses to do these spells, and he is able to make it work now to where all of the children who were in the basement go after Gladys, and we get some crazy scene where they're chasing her. Around outside, and she's running through different houses, and they're coming crashing through windows and doors and chasing her, and it's kind of crazy, but it's entertaining, it's fun. Um, which I want to come back to in a moment. But yeah, and then eventually the children catch her and basically rip her apart. And once she is dead, the spell somewhat lifts off of everyone else, and but not completely either. We learn that Alex has been sent to live with another aunt, that his parents are receiving care. The children are, some of them have started to speak again, others are still almost like in this catatonic state. But that's pretty much the film. Now, again, I ran through all of that very quickly, but I think this movie, I think this is a good film. Again, I think the performances are incredible. I like the story. I think the film looks good. The cinematography is good. They do a great job with making just this small town and these, little rural streets look kind of creepy and spooky. Um, there is a little bit of gore, not a lot, but a little here and there. There is some tension. There's some good jump scares throughout the film. There's a lot of good things about this movie. Really, the only issue that I have with the film, one of the only issues that I have with the film is that I just feel like it's a little bit too long. I know I just explained how getting to see through the different perspectives and stuff helped that, and it does because I think without that it would be way too long. But I still feel like it has a couple of slow moments here and there, and drags a little bit from time to time. But uh, it's okay. Um, it's not so much that it takes away from the movie; it's still enjoyable. Um, the only other issue that I have with this film, and this is going to be 100% a me thing, and you've heard me talk about this before if you've watched my channel very much at all. Um, I like my horror movies to be fun. That's why I think slashers, and I know I've said this before, but I think slashers are my favorite subgenre in horror because watching Jason, watching Michael, watching Freddy, Leatherface, Chucky, Ghostface, um, Art the Clown. I mean, I could go on and on. Those movies are fun to me. I can shut my brain off. I can watch, some crazy kills, watch these killers. Just, slasher movies are fun to me. Um, Very seldom do they have a lot of slow moments and drag moments. It does happen from time to time, but they're just fun. And this movie, up until I really don't think anything about this movie is fun. Doesn't mean it's not a good movie. It is a good movie. I really don't think anything about it though is fun until that kind of end where the kids are chasing Gladys. And again, it's just so crazy and outrageous the way they're just crashing through windows and doors, and she's running through other houses, and the families in these houses are freaking out and getting scared because this old lady's running through, and then here come all these kids, and um, that scene was fun, but the rest of the movie is not. And so that doesn't mean I dislike it. Again, it's a good movie. It's just not it's just not 100% my thing. There are some things that I appreciate. There are some things I really like, but it's just not the kind of movie that I feel like I'm always just going to keep going back to. Now, I did enjoy it enough that once it's streaming or it comes out on Blu-ray or 4K or something, I'll probably pick it up because it might be something I want to revisit somewhere down the road. Um, I may have some friends I want to show it to or family members I want to see it, that kind of thing. So I'll probably pick it up, being a collector just to have it. But it's not something that I'm going to rewatch a lot, I don't think. And I say all that because then when I get ready to rate the film on my 1 to 10 scale, this is a good movie. It's just not my thing. It's not uh, it's not fun. I mean, again, I hope that makes sense. It's good. It's just not fun. And so, I mean, it's not as dark and depressing as movies like Hereditary and things like that, but it's just, it's not quite my thing. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to see it. It's a good movie. It's just not going to be one of my favorites. I can see why other people might think it's one of the best movies of the year. I can see why people absolutely love this movie. I can see why people think it's too long and slow at times. I mean, I can see reasonings on every side of that for this movie. But for me, to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, um, again, I don't have much negative to say, just a few pacing issues here and there. And then, just for what I look for in a movie, not really being there. But, all of that being said, I think for me, scale of 1 to 10, it's tough. Gosh, I'm still trying to decide. I hadn't rated it yet because I wanted to talk about it a little bit to see what popped into my head. Um, Weapons on a scale of 1 to 10 for me, uh, I'm going to give it a 7. I feel like sometimes I feel like 7 almost becomes my go-to when I can't decide what else. But if it was a great movie, an excellent movie, I'd give it a 9 or a 10. If it was really really good, I'd give it an 8. If it was just kind of good, I would consider probably a 6. So I'll go right in the middle of all of that, and I'll give Weapons a 7 out of 10. I'm sure there's going to be some people that tell me that's way too low, but yeah, it's my channel, so I can give it what I want to give it. But so yeah, Weapons, 7 out of 10 for me. But I do definitely encourage you to go see it if you haven't already, because I can definitely see how other people would rank this one higher and really enjoy this one. So yeah, that's that. I will be back in a few days to talk about Renfield. That's going to be interesting to talk about as well. Um, yeah, I'll save my thoughts on that for the next episode. But yeah, that will wrap this up. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. And if you've seen Weapons, leave me some comments. I want to know what you think about this movie. Do you really like it? Do you think it was a bit long and drug a little bit? What do you think about the plot, the story? Yeah, I want to know your opinion of this movie. So I love the interaction. Uh, Hit the like button. Leave me some comments. Again, subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on social media. I'm pretty much on everything out there. Blue Sky, Instagram, uh, Threads, TikTok, X. Yeah, I'm on all of it. So Sean's Horror Corner. Follow me on social media. I do try to follow back as much as possible. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll wrap this up, and I'll be back in a couple of days to talk about Renfield. Thank you so much.